Somebody's estate's in order, it's a lot of work. And when somebody's estate's not in order, it's a mess. It could be a full-time job for somebody to fix. And that's without people fighting, right? I mean, that's just with people being nice to each other. So
I know.
So you throw in that and yeah, it can be really messy. Welcome to Wealth Creator Radio, where we help people overcome the uncertainty of having enough retirement income. I'm your host, Eric Heckman, a certified financial planner with over 30 years of experience. We want you to enjoy life and not have to wonder where your money will come from and how long it'll last. My mission is to show you how to develop a personalized income plan so you can retire more and have worry less wealth. Here at Wealth Creator Radio, we cut through the noise and get straight to what matters. We understand that the world of retirement planning can be filled with confusing products, ever-changing tax laws, and volatile markets. That's why we're here to help successful people like you navigate the uncertainty and create a blueprint for a thriving, work-optional life.
Welcome. I am Luann Fulmer, and inheritance battles and legal costs are becoming a growing concern for families nationwide. According to recent headlines, some families are losing millions to lawyers and costly courtroom fights. So this is money that was meant to be left to loved ones. Eric Heckman from Heckman Financial is here today. He's going to help us make sense of all of this. Now, before we do get into our show, if the idea of leaving your legacy makes you anxious, or maybe you haven't updated your legacy plan in a while, call Heckman Financial today for a complimentary legacy planning review. This is what they do, and there's no cost, no obligation for you. Just call or text the word VISIT to 800-454-1184. Also, you can get the digital toolbox, and this includes Eric's book that he has written, plus some other really, really good resources about retirement. That's right at your fingertips. If you just call 800-454-1184 or use that text again, text the word toolbox. And remember, you can always find us online at wealthcreatorradio.com. So, Eric, excited to get started with you today again.
Yeah, me too. Yes.
All right. So these inheritance disputes, okay, obviously are terrible. I've seen it happen in my own family, which you never thought would happen ever. So tell us about this. This is not uncommon, right?
Yeah, I mean, it can be, I always tell people when somebody's estate's in order, it's a lot of work. And when somebody's estate's not in order, it's a mess. It could be a full-time job for somebody to fix. And that's without people fighting, right? I mean, that's just with people being nice to each other. So
I know.
So you throw in that and yeah, it can be really messy. So, and the sad part is almost all of this is really simply fixed with just some couple signatures and, a little bit of time. Right. But yeah, it's amazing how many people don't have it set up right.
Talk about what you've seen, some of the things that you've seen in your career.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's two sets of things. One is that I always warn people on, which is the weirder one, I guess, in some respects, but it's, for lack of a friendlier term, the junk, the stuff that pretty much has no value to most people, but it has some sort of value to that family. So, I had one case where it was kind of a rare timeline where I had 4 generations as a client. And then when, the eldest grandma finally passed away, one of the teenagers went in there and got grandma's shoes. And then the other ones were mad because their teenage daughter didn't get a chance to look at grandma's shoes. Now, I knew grandma. She didn't ever seem super fashionable to me, but the fact that they were fighting over her shoes was really ridiculous.
And surely she had another pair of shoes.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And but it's been stuff like, somebody's quilt or somebody's, whatever they bought someplace on some trip. And and some of those stuff really can get people actually almost more mad than the money, which you wouldn't think's the case. But
those sentimental things.
Yeah, but it often is. So those are easy to fix. I mean, just write it down. Take pictures of those things, put it into your trust, saying this person gets whatever, and ask your adult kids to say, okay, when I'm gone, what stuff do you care about? What is there anything you really want specifically? But yeah, on the money side, there's been other issues like a long time back. I remember I had a client that he had been the brother had been recently divorced, and Then they had a sister living with the parents when the parents passed away. And then my client and another sibling, all four of them were supposed to get the house. Well, the one that was getting divorced couldn't get a loan because he was in the middle of a divorce. And, he had to wait till his divorce was final so he could then, get a loan on the house, pay off the other siblings and give them money. And it ended up taking almost 2 years before they got their money. And, what do? Evict your other, have half your siblings evict the other two siblings, it just, but they wanted that money and they couldn't build up money with it. And, it's just one of those things where, everything gets kind of squished and put on hold until that gets rectified. So a lot of times there's some weird situations that end up where the parents say, hey, everybody gets a quarter of the house. Well, I didn't think about how complicated that could be.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. What a nightmare. And the parents aren't even there to witness all that, to help, Yeah. So give us some common factors that do cause inheritance conflicts.
Well, stuff like, just dividing everything up. I mean, especially when one child lives in the house, well, what's going to happen with that child? If there's somebody there who was taking care of mom before she passed away, is it right that the other siblings get their equal share of that house and get to kick her out right away? Or should she get a year or two to move out? I mean, it's not very fair if they were there helping and doing all this stuff. And, so that'd be one thing I'd think is just timing some of those things. There are things called life estates too, where you can have somebody retain the ability to live in the house, but not the ownership. And then at their death, then it goes to the rest of everybody. So there's different things you can do. And also just looking at, what's types of money. Is all the beneficiaries equal? You don't want to leave somebody IRA money and the other one gets regular money that gets a step up in basis. So that one you get tax free, whereas the other ones you have to pay a ton of tax. So,
right.
Yeah. So you want to have all that stuff be equal. Sometimes I see some weird stuff where somebody has a couple rental properties. So they all pick a different house for each person to get. And, of course, then that, what are the odds of those homes all being the same value at the
right?
Day to day?
That was my first thought.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be equal. So, and then especially in California with Prop 19, it gets reassessed now at death where it didn't used to. So, most people are going to sell that rental property now when people die. So, why even separate it out like that? Just sell it all and such.
Sell it all,
yeah,
and then divide it. Yeah,
yeah, and so that's the hard part. Is a lot of times people just don't really have a plan or don't think about how this will be on the other side of the coin kind of thing when they're having to figure it out and pay it out and stuff. So, again, that's why we've, set up some great information for people where, we can get into the digital toolbox, which has, stuff like, will my money last as long as I do in retirement? Am I paying too much tax in retirement? It also has a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and a way to set a time to talk with us at Team Heckman here. So all you got to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or click the link below.
If you are just joining us, I am talking with Eric Heckman about avoiding costly inheritance disputes. So, all right, why don't you just give us a how-to? How can listeners avoid these challenges, Eric?
Yeah, so one major thing is just having a plan, right? So, getting a will or trust set up. Ideally, if you own real estate, you really should have a trust. And, making sure about every 5 years, you re-update that and you just recheck everything. People sometimes 20, 30 years and they haven't looked at it. And, they might have guardians for their kids who have grandkids, right?
Right.
So, so some of that stuff you just need to fix. Then also, like I said, the sentimental things, what do you want to have? Who wants to get something there? That's a big one. And then, making sure everybody's included and, really just talking to people too about it, because lots of times people just do this plan and they don't mention it to their kids. You don't have to give them exact details, but you could, at least the rough thing and say, okay, are you good with this? Or especially if it's real estate or something that's complicated to own, is that something they want to handle, or not? So yeah, it's just more about getting a plan, having it updated and getting it done. So, again, we've got a lot of great tools set up in our digital toolbox. If you want to have access to that, to copy my book, Worry Less Wealth, and a way to set up a time to talk with us, just text word toolbox, 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox 800-454-1184 or click the link below.
Would you rather pay more or less in taxes? If you want to pay more, don't do anything. If you want to pay less, talk to Eric Heckman to see what's possible for you. 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184.
Hey, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. Remember when you were working and you counted on that regular paycheck hitting your bank account either every 2 weeks or every month? It was awesome. Payday. For me, it's like, okay, I got my allowance, you can go spend again. For many retirees, though, predictable income is replaced by constant worrying about their portfolios and what's happening with the market and checking it all the time. And that can be nerve-wracking. But retirement does not have to feel like it's a roller coaster. Eric, I got to ask you, how are you with roller coasters?
I like them, but always get car sick as a kid and stuff. So yeah, some of them, not as good. If they're the super crazy, the moderate crazy ones, I'm okay. But some of them are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the one? There's one in Disney World that's that one got to me. It was
Space
I
Mountain
think
or
it's in
something?
Animal Kingdom or something. It's one
Ooh.
where it stops and goes forward and backward and all this
Yeah.
kind of crazy weird stuff. And
I'm
that one
like
I was
you.
like, yeah, no,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
So
am like you.
okay, somewhat, but not the super crazy.
No need to go on a ride and then feel nauseous the rest of the day. That's
Yeah.
how I feel. Yeah, but roller coasters in retirement, and we're talking with your money, not quite so good. So let's
No,
talk
those roller
about
coasters nobody enjoys, right? And everybody
no,
goes,
no,
"Wee, yeah, the market's crashing." Yeah, as you go
no.
down, right? Yeah. Usually when
Nobody
you're going
likes
down a
it.
roller coaster, everybody's happy, but
Yeah,
pretty much opposite on stock market.
exactly. Right. So talk about why having that dependable income is so important for retirees instead of worrying about the ups and downs.
Yeah, well, you don't want to be just all of a sudden going, "Oh, can I not do this now? Can I not do this?" I mean, I remember years ago that I had met with somebody and he'd planned this huge, elaborate, like I think it was 6 or maybe 8 week trip, and he managed his own apartment building. And all of a sudden, there was stuff with the apartment building messed up, and so he had to cancel this huge trip
Oh,
just because he's mid 70s and managing his own real estate.
oh,
It's just like
shoot.
that's not how you're supposed to be retired. So
No.
yeah, you don't want to have those hills and valleys on your money because
Mm-mm.
that's a little too much, right? So
Right.
you need at least a good baseline. Now, hopefully Social Security stays around. Hopefully it doesn't get taken away. It's stuff we paid into, and the government's
Mhm.
supposed to give it to us. But there's
Mhm.
a lot of forces right now trying to take it away, and then there's issues with it down the road. So having some sort of other base of income on top of your that Social Security check, really the biggest goal would be to, if you can get most of the normal monthly costs covered, that's really the ideal goal. So you'd want to have some of that be guaranteed where it can't go away. So if it's a downturn, doesn't matter, you still have access to it, still can get it without any loss. There's lots of great products out there like that now. So that'd be one thing. And then just also having some money in what I like to call steady income, where it pays off good dividends, either monthly or quarterly at least. And so again, if you've got a lot of cash flow meeting that baseline type of stuff, maybe property taxes, Christmas, you always get those, those months that are a little lumpy, right, in terms of expenses. But so maybe you're not necessarily covering that, but at least you're covering most of the common monthly costs, and that's really what you want to be, because then the market stuff is for the fun big projects or the improvements or the bigger trips and stuff like that. So you don't have to be freaking out every time that you get to that drop and you know about to do
Yes.
that corkscrew or whatever or flips.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, you want to have some safety from that.
So, we always say one of the number one fears for retirees is running out of money. We're all living longer. So I think people are worried about the fact that we're, living longer lives. We have to stretch that money out. And then we've seen market volatility, of course, inflation. We've experienced inflation again. So talk about strategies that you put together for retirees to help ensure that their retirement income is going to last, is going to stretch as long as they do.
Yeah, so what, 30, 40 years of working, you're pretty much just funding a 401k, which is basically by rule 100% market money. And so you don't really get much education. You don't get much exposure to foundational items, stuff that's guaranteed. You don't usually focus too much on steady income stuff because you don't need to take money out. You don't need the income, right? So, first of all, just looking at your portfolio and saying, okay, how much is steady income? How much is in foundational? And what would foundational be? Foundational stuff that can't go away, not stuff that most likely won't. No, that's not, stuff that really won't, can't go away. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
either banks or, if you're holding a bond to maturity, a lot of times people put money in bond funds. It's like, well, those can still go down. So we're talking about holding a bond to maturity is a little different. And then, looking at stuff that's with insurance companies, not the variable stuff that's not guaranteed. So we want stuff that's fixed and or indexed. And those things can be some great tools right now. They've got maximums up to 10% that you can get. So they've got some great earnings. There's some that you can turn on a lifetime income and have that lifetime payout, just like your own kind of private pension in essence, right? So, if you can have some of that money built up and it's going to last, I mean, there's tons and tons of studies now that say really you need to have some sort of guaranteed lifetime income to make sure you don't outlive that money, because a lot of us are going to have 30, maybe even 40-year, which sounds crazy,
Yeah. Okay.
retirements, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a long time for that money to last. And, I mean, if you think about you're now having to support yourself for as many years as you worked, for as many years as you retired, yeah, you need to have some of that money guaranteed to make sure it's going to be coming in there, every year, and well, obviously every month even, right?
Right.
And so, so that's one of the things that we've built up actually here at Heckman Financial is that in our digital toolbox, we've got a lot of resources. One of them is, will my money last as long as I do? Hey, right there, right? And am I paying too much in tax and retirement? Social Security decision dilemma. These are all quick reads. It takes you about 10, 15 minutes to check those out to get some really good education. And, also that you can get a copy of my book or even set a time to talk with me, Eric Heckman. So all you got to do, super easy, is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or go online directly to wealthcreatorradio.com.
And we thank you so much for spending part of your day with us today. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. And so, some brokers and advisors are still recommending the 4% withdrawal rate. So I wonder what you think about that, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, it can be people like rules of thumb, right? They
Yeah.
like to try to make things that are complicated simple, and
Yep.
and all those things work to a mild degree, right?
Yeah.
So they're not perfect. Technically, the 4% rule isn't supposed to be a static 4%. If you actually read the rule thing about it, is it's actually supposed to go up every single year with inflation, so it gets higher and higher. Which, if you look at the RMD charts for retirement stuff, the required minimum distribution, it's actually very much like that 4% rule in a way. So, it can be good, but really, that's not how you spend money. And so the reality of how you spend money is, I think, more critical. And if you really think about it, you've got your go-go years, which is usually your first 5 to 10 years of retirement. That's when you're, checking off those bucket list items, right? That's Machu Picchu, that's the river cruise in, Europe, or, maybe it's hiking in a lot of the national parks and things like that, if they're still open. And so that's one of those things where you're gonna be doing a lot more stuff. You're gonna probably be spending more money. Then you get the slow go years where maybe you're doing a bus tour, not a hike, and you're doing a few less trips. And then you get those, probably won't go years. You could go someplace, but you probably won't. And so their spending is going to be a lot higher in those first 5 to 10 years. So if you try to level out that spending, you're going to be kind of almost broke early on for not wanting to do all the stuff you want to do. And then by the time you get older, okay, now I have enough money, I can go do it. Well, maybe you physically can't do it now, right? Or maybe it's not going to be something. So that's what you don't want to have happen. So you need more of a realistic, real income plan that really, calculates all these different things in there. And that's what we do for people. So, again, if you want to get that digital toolbox, have an appointment to set time with, talk to me with, for a 15, 30-minute phone call, all you do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox, 454-1184 or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Do you know whether your retirement plan has any weak points? Discover ways on giving your financial future the proper tune-up. Simply go online to wealthcreatortoolbox.com to gain a better understanding in taxes, Social Security, and other ways to manage your portfolio. That's wealthcreatortoolbox.com.
Hello again, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial, where their mission is to get you to and through a worry-less wealth retirement. When we're planning for retirement, so many of us focus on, just growing that nest egg, okay? But having a large sum of money does not automatically translate into reliable monthly income. So, Eric, one of the points you talk about very first in your Blueprint to Worry-Less Wealth, your plan for retirees, is the income, right? The income plan. Tell us, what is that all about?
Yeah, well, just picture you're trying to build that dream house and you're thinking about what the view will look like, what it looks like from the outside, right? And all that stuff. But first thing you got to do to make it real is have a plan, right? Get those drawings, figure out where the studs go, the pipes, wires, all that fun stuff. And
very important stuff.
Same thing with with retirement. Lots of times people just are focused on what's the hot stock or where should I put my money today. That's not income. That's points on the scoreboard. You need to actually have cash flow coming out. And the math is 100% different than when you're having the money grow. Those ups and downs in the market, those roller coaster ride moments, those didn't really matter to you because you didn't withdraw anything. But when you're withdrawing the money, those really matter because if you're taking money out every month and there was 4 months that the market went down and 1 month it jumped right back up, well, guess what? You sold shares at losses for 4 months, and then those shares that you sold, they didn't come back up. So you need to have a different way to spend. First and foremost, the biggest thing is figuring out how much do you actually spend, right? And what's that real number? Because I find most people, it's at least 20 to 40% more than they think that they spend. And
wow.
Yeah, 40%. Oh, yeah. I've had one couple that came in here and she thought they spent 6,000. He thought it was 12 and it was 13,500. I mean,
my goodness.
She was nowhere near, and so, one of the things is
her or him?
Well, her giving money to the adult kids was what we determined was one of the big problems. And that was more lumpy. So she didn't think of that as an ongoing expense. But
right.
Yeah. So I think the best way to do is I have a little tool. It's just the no BS budget. It's super easy. You just take your last 12 months bank statements, add up all the withdrawals, and hopefully you're, taking that money out once a month to pay off that credit card. So you don't even have to look at your credit card statement. So again, just add up all the withdrawals from your bank account, divide by 12. That's what you really spent. And, I pretty much almost guarantee you it's gonna be higher than you think.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
So once you know that real number, then you can start saying, okay, how much do I have from guaranteed sources like in Social Security? And in case Social Security does get cut and Social Security does get trimmed back, which is very likely, then what happens there? Do you have any other guaranteed source of money, some minimum paychecks that are coming in for the rest of your life? So, that's the things that you can easily set up. And, that's what we help a lot of people set up, at least some money coming in the door every single month for as long as you live. And that can't go away in those down markets. It's protected. It's, so at least you don't have to worry about every up and down and figuring out what you should do this month or can't do this month. So that's one of the biggest things that people really want to be focused on is get that reality number, not the number they think it is.
Yeah, I love that reality check. And the math is really pretty simple. I think we can all do that math, right? It's a matter of just looking at things and addition, So talk about the steps that you would recommend people take when they're trying to assess whether their current retirement strategy is going to provide enough reliable income.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got a great tool here that's our retirement income planner. It's really nice because it knows all the different types of money. So Social Security isn't state taxable, but it's 85% federally taxable, and Roth, of course, is tax free. If you have stock brokerage accounts, you get cost basis plus gains. So those all have different tax effects. So you need to know those as you pull that money out and count for that correctly. And then you also need to have some inflation factors. And then you also need to have a little bit of reality check, right? Are you building in a fun fund? Because when you're retired, you can go off and have more fun. So if you're looking at what you were spending while you're working, but you weren't having quite as much fun, right? Now you get more time to do fun stuff.
Yeah.
So you're going to probably spend more.
Right.
Things like, lots of times people pay for their health care through their paycheck. Well, once you retire, you're paying that, out of your own income. So is
Mhm.
that accounted for? So all those types of things. And, once we have that built into an income plan, then we can figure out what financial tool should we implement to make sure that money lasts. And so that's the correct way to do it. Most people are just picking tools and hoping it works versus having a
Right.
plan and then you figure out what tool you need. So so again, that's one of the things we do here at Heckman Financial is try to educate people and try to get them that information that they need to know how to make smart decisions. So one of the things you could do is if you want to set up a time, 15 to 30-minute phone call, just tell us what you're worried about, what kind of things you want to have help with. We can sit down with you and go over that. And then if it makes sense, we can even take you to that next blueprint meeting where there's no cost or fee. We'll tell you where you're headed right now. And then only at the end of that second meeting do you decide if you want to work with us or not. So again, there's a lot of great information, a lot of stuff that we can do for you. So all you got to do is super easy is, either call and then leave a message or text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word visit 800-454-1184 or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And we are so happy to have you along with us today. Thank you for joining us. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. So, a lot of retirees, for some reason, think that their taxes are going to be lower in retirement. I feel like this is just some sort of little myth that's going around, floating around. Talk about how, the steps that current retirees or even pre-retirees can take to protect themselves against taxes in retirement.
Yeah, well, taxes in retirement, that is the number one cost for people in retirement. Everybody says it's healthcare.
Right.
I don't know why.
I don't either. I
So,
guess, I don't know. It's
I
big
mean, healthcare
expense,
can
I
be
guess.
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
especially if you end up needing nursing home, it could be,
Hmm.
10 to 12,000 a month easily,
Yeah.
but that's usually only for a couple of years. And then
Yeah.
you also have a ton of medical write-offs. So
Yeah.
your
That's true.
taxes aren't quite as big then. But
Yeah.
but for the most part, hopefully that doesn't happen to you. But
Hmm.
but for pretty much everybody, taxes are going to be a huge hit. And
Right.
taxes can't go down to, ignore the politicians. We owe too much money. And even
Yep.
if they try to have the federal government spend a little bit less, we are so far out of whack that the only
Far.
way to do it is have more income, not
Right.
spending less. So having the government have more income is the only way to do that is via taxes. So
Yes.
they're not going down anytime soon. Yeah.
No.
So what we want to do is make sure we're at least paying the least you can. One really dumb thing I see a lot of people get advice on 100% incorrectly is, and lots of times it's because they ask the wrong question. So they'll ask their tax person, should I take money out of my retirement accounts or should I take it out of my, savings or my investment accounts? And they'll always say savings or investment, defer that tax, defer that tax, defer that tax, right?
Hmm.
And just keep pushing it out year after year. Well, when they moved the retirement age just from 70 and a half to 72, the government accounting office said that the government should make about 15% more money.
Are you
Now they
talking
moved it to
required
7
minimum distributions?
for the required minimum distributions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because that year and a half difference, people were going to have bigger balances and then
Right.
they'd have to pay more tax. Well, then they turned around and, 2 years later, moved it to 73 to 75.
Yep.
So 73, if you're born before
Yep.
1960 and 1960 and after, it's age 75. Well, again, the reason they did that was not to be nice. They do that because they're going to
Of
get
course
more
not.
tax money from you. So
Hmm.
if you go from 12 to 24% bracket, that's 100% increase. That's
Wow.
not a little
Yeah.
increase. That's a huge.
That
And
is.
that's what I'm seeing a lot of people in their mid 70s on track to do. So you got to level out that tax throughout your life, not just go low and then, skyrocket up, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what we're trying to protect people from. So, again, if you want to set up a time and really get some information, find out what you're, worried about, see if we can help you. All you got to do is text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text word visit 800-454-1184 or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Be sure to like and subscribe to Wealth Creator Radio so you can stay up to date on ways to build your wealth and create a retirement you and your family will enjoy for years to come. Like and subscribe today and create your wealth for tomorrow with Wealth Creator Radio.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Luann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. He is offering a chance to help you create a retirement strategy where you guys are going to look at your income, your investments, your tax strategies, healthcare plan, and legacy plan. You can get our toolbox, remember, at no cost just by texting the word toolbox, 800-454-1184. All right, so we are going to get to retirement questions right now on our show. And then I'll get to kind of a real quick lightning round of think fast questions, Eric, where I'm just going to give you one thing and you have to tell me what's on your mind, okay? So that'll be coming up here at the end of this segment. But first of all, a question that is on the minds of a lot of retirees is this: when should I start considering taking Social Security?
Well, I think most people really should be around the full retirement age, which for most of us right now is 67. There's a few people born before 1960. It's a couple months earlier.
That's me.
Yeah, but most people, it should be really 67. Yeah, you can wait till 70. You make more money, but you also don't get the money. So it depends on when you retire, right? But but before that, it can be really hazardous because if you work and make money, you can give it back and have to pay it back and such. So yep. So that's still usually should be the main goal for people,
Okay.
is at least full retirement
Full
age.
retirement age. Love it. Okay. What are the best ways for leaving an inheritance to my family?
You mean die? No, just kidding.
Well, die.
Yeah, you have to do that kind of first.
You got to
right?
do that
But,
first, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the worst assets to leave behind are IRA, 401ks, because of now, those have to be spent down over 10 years and all the
Yeah.
taxes paid. And whereas if it's a brokerage account, if it's a house, stuff like that, they get to step up a basis. There's no taxes due on it. Even Roth accounts are tax-free to the next generation, but they do have to be cashed in within 10 years.
Oh,
So,
wow, they do. Okay.
yeah. So I mean, there's, those are some, it just depends on which assets that you have, obviously. The biggest tax-free way to do it and build up more assets is really with life insurance. So, and a lot of life insurance policies today actually give you some long-term care benefits. So, we're seeing actually more and more clients where we'll move some money into life insurance, even if they're in their 60s, because not only does it leave behind some money if everything goes kind of right and they just pass away, but if things go not as right and they need long-term care, they can use up that death benefit for covering those costs, which really helps out.
Yeah, I love that idea. The fact that life insurance or insurance companies are actually helping with long-term care. I love that. Okay. Another question that is on a lot of retirees' mind: what are some ways to reduce my taxes in retirement?
Yeah, well, so the crazy part is you hear a lot of stuff about people spending a ton of money for healthcare in retirement, but really the number one thing that people spend the most money on is taxes in retirement. That is the biggest cost item. And so that's a critical question that, most financial advisors say, go talk to your tax person. Your tax person says, talk to your financial advisor. And you look like you're watching a tennis match with your head going back and forth, right? So, that's not what it should be. That's why we're licensed and trained in taxes. And you really need to be planning this because it can be a huge make or break in your retirement. So if you're not doing some Roth conversions, you're not doing tax efficient investing or tax free investing, there's lots of different options out there. But when you're building up that plan and you're figuring out what you should be doing, hands down, $1 per hour, the most lucrative planning you can ever do is actually tax planning.
Okay, very good. And of course, you and your team, that's all part of your toolbox that, or your blueprint to worthless wealth, I should say, that's in the toolbox that you take people through. And then finally, this question: what do you mean when you talk about having a retirement income plan?
Yeah, so that's super critical. And, can you imagine going on a hike out in the forest and you have no GPS, no map,
Oh.
no phone, and you're trying to get to some lake somewhere?
Yeah.
Good luck, right? Maybe you get up on a hill, maybe you can see where the lake is, maybe. And then once you get there, good luck trying to even get back to your car, right? So the retirement income plan is your guide. It's your, it's your navigation system in retirement, but it's something that also has to be updated every year because obviously spending happens, right? You do different things, market changes, dollar values change of accounts, and, tax laws change, everything changes, right? So, having that plan shows you, okay, yes, I can spend this much money for the rest of my life, and I'm gonna be good with inflation, taxes, everything, calculated in. But we have to also update that every year because, like I said, things are changing. So, yeah, I cannot imagine anybody doing retirement without that.
Mhm.
Sadly, though, one of the studies shows that up to about 80% or only 1 in 5, I guess is the positive way to say it, have a plan.
Wow,
4 in 5 don't, which
Mhm.
is just insane.
insane.
Yeah. So, so that's very scary. That's that wandering in the forest, and good luck. So yeah, that's one of the things that we do here at Heckman Financial is we build that blueprint to worry less wealth, where we talk first and foremost about having that retirement income plan. Secondly, then, looking at that, look at how the money's invested, because once you go to retire, you have to change that investment, not for growth, but for money, right? For cash flow.
Yeah.
And then what's the tax ramifications of all those different accounts? Which bucket of money should you be grabbing first? What's the healthcare issues? Long-term care, Medicare, how are you going to get health insurance? And then lastly, like we talked about there, who gets your stuff after you're gone? So, those are the 5 areas of planning that people really need to have a plan. Well, they have a plan. They need to know what their plan is
Yes.
and have an intentional plan. And so that's what we do here at Ekman Financial. And if you want to set up a time to just talk on the phone for 15, 30 minutes with me, you can do that. All you have to do is text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word visit 800-454-1184, or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Yeah. What we're trying to do here is help transform your worries of retirement into confidence. That's Eric's goal for you. That's why he's here every single week. And goodness sakes, he's done this for over 30 years. So talk about wisdom that you can gain from someone who deals with retirees every single day. So we just thank you so much for spending part of your day with us today. This is Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. All right, so now we are going to take a couple minutes, go into this lightning round of questions so we can get to know you, Eric, just a little bit better. I'm going to give you a quick, topic or something, and I want you to just quickly answer as quick as you can. All right?
All right, sounds good.
Okay, here we go. First one, top news sources you check regularly.
Well, let's see. I still get my local Mercury News, emails, not the paper,
Okay.
and also Wall Street Journal.
Okay, got it. What book have you read more than once, Eric?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see. Well, Think and Grow Rich is an old one that's a really good book, and actually Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, I think, is one of the best ones. And
Compound Effect.
Yeah, that one don't know if I count reading it twice. I read it, and then I've also done the audio. So
There you go. I think it counts. How many siblings do you have, Eric?
Not anymore, but I had a sister who lost her 20-year battle of leukemia a while back. But yep.
You had a sister, little sister, big sister?
Older sister.
Older sister. Okay. I'm sorry, though. I'm very sorry. Favorite sport?
Well, to watch is, Sharks hockey. I guess, as most people know, I do a lot of cycling. So, that'd be the one I actually do, I guess, the most is, usually try to ride about 4,000 miles a year. So
That's amazing. I love that. What was your first car?
it was a little Mazda hatchback, so GLC. Which,
What color?
it was pretty ugly. It was actually like, I don't know, some brown.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Cake or pie?
I'd actually say probably pie.
Ooh, what
But
kind of pie?
It's hard to get pies nowadays.
It is,
There's almost
yeah.
No place that sells them anymore.
Okay, my last question, because I'm going to have to wrap it up. Most important thing you want your clients to know about you?
Well, I mean, one of the things I'm most proud of is I was able to take care of my dad for 20 years, for his 20 years of retirement, 20 years after my mom passed away.
Mm-hmm.
They were retired for about 3 years before she passed away at 60, which was way early.
Way early.
And so being able to take care of him is probably the best thing I was ever able to give my mom. And it's what I do for my clients. I mean, it's just ready to sit there and figure out, okay, how can we make sure this all happens? How can we make sure you stay on track and enjoy
worry less wealth retirement. So that's what we're here for. But if you got some questions, you want to learn a little bit more and you want to just ask me some questions, feel free. All you have to do is text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word visit 800-454-1184 or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will the roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a great run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather the financial storm? Now may be a great time to have your retirement plan inspected. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial at 800-454-1184 now. Eric will examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial today at 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
Hi there. We have come to a time on our show that I love. This is when Eric shares with us a wealth success story. So it's always a really good lesson or a really good example to see what retirees have done that have worked out for the best for them. So I can't wait to hear what you have for us today, Eric.
Yeah, well, I mean, recently I've run into a couple different sets of people where they've done very well. They've, been lucky enough to be at the right companies at the right time and were able to sell off some stocks for some big gains. Ironically, there's two different couples, didn't know each other or anything, but totally separate cases. But they put most of their money in U.S. Treasuries, which nice, safe option, for a good portion, not all their money, but a good portion. So that way, if you got a couple $1,000,000, where it can't drop in value and, if you hold it to maturity, it's going to be, things will do great, right? You're going to be okay financially. But the problem sometimes, even though this is a success story, is, there's not having a no money problem. That's always a big problem. Having a tax problem because you have money, that's always a better thing, right? You'd much rather have a tax problem than a no money problem. But, but what happens with a lot of these people is they're not paying attention to taxes. And, so they've done really well. They've built up all this money. And then now they're getting, sometimes I've had people where they're over $100,000 of dividends and interest that they're paying tax on, and they're not using any of that money, but it's causing them taxation. So that's one of those things where you have to really watch out because, once you do have a good pot of money saved up, you have to be paying attention to the tax picture. And if you're not focused on that, it can be really ugly. I've got another set of clients that are kind of polar opposite. They both worked in just, regular kind of jobs, but luckily for them, one was in a utility company and one was in government, and they both retired with some good pensions. And so they've got good pension income. They've been pretty thrifty and saving money and doing stuff like that. And, they've got some rental income, other things, but they're never going to be in a low tax bracket. And it's just, he retired a little over a year and a half ago. We just recently met, and this was, last year was his first full year being fully retired. And, they're still paying extra Medicare premiums that they're going to be paying just because of their income so high. And now they're going to have, monies that they have to start taking in from their retirement accounts in a few years. And their tax rate's going to go back up to where they were when they were working. So that's one of the things where we have to start working on that now to try to minimize that tax hit. So, it's kind of weird when you say, hey, you did a great job saving, but, now you have to pay up because it's almost like it's almost like a penalty for, for doing good. You're like, hold it. I thought doing good would be better, but like, no, now you owe a bunch of tax, right?
Right.
So,
but they have you to help guide them.
Yeah. So at least we're doing the planning. At least we're starting to, figure out some stuff that we can do to minimize it. I mean, it's not going to get rid of the problem, but at least if we can lessen it, that's one of the keys. And I think people don't realize that once you've built up some, good pot of money, taxes are going to be a huge thing in your future. Thank you for tuning in to Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Eric Heckman, and it's been a pleasure guiding you towards a more confident and secure retirement. Remember, my responsibility is to always do what's right for you, our client.
Together, we can cut out that fancy sounding financial jargon that doesn't help and focus on what truly matters for your financial future. If you're ready to take control of your retirement planning and build a personalized income plan, contact us at 800-454-1184 and text the word Toolbox to schedule a complimentary consultation. If you're looking for more resources and tools to build your retirement future, don't forget to check out that Wealth Creator Toolbox, your toolkit for a secure and confident retirement journey. Until next time, retire more and worry less with Wealth Creator Radio.
Information provided during Wealth Creator Radio is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. Eric Heckman offers investment advisory services through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Any tax advice given as part of this presentation is not intended to be used and cannot be used by the taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding tax penalties or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any matter or transaction addressed herein. The views and opinions expressed in the program are not necessarily those of the radio station or its sponsors, and they should not construe as legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult the appropriate advisor before making any financial decision.